Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Okay, so this first question. Hello, my son is 13 with ASD and has very rigid interests. Basically, excuse me, playing games on the iPad. I beg your pardon. Playing games on the iPad, watching videos, and taking photos of objects in the house. Now I'm going to have a tickle. So sorry, you guys. Pardon me.
No
I want to start cutting down on his iPad time. But then what does he do? He says no to all my suggestions for hobbies. He goes online, does online school, and doesn't leave the house much at all. He seems totally fine with not doing much at all. How do I reduce screen time and motivate him to try new activities when screen time is all he likes to do? And they said, thank you for your suggestions. I'm going to mute and cough and let you go for it.
Sure. So I think you mentioned that he is 13. And this is kind of when it gets a little bit difficult because this is sort of the reason why it's easy to do things, much easier, let's say, to do things when the children are very young. Because once a behavior pattern kind of becomes a habit, it becomes difficult to break. But nevertheless, if you look at what he's doing, it makes perfect sense, right? Because those are his reinforcers. Those are the things that he enjoys doing: videos, iPad games, photos, those are things that he likes to do, and he's engaging in things that he likes to do. Because there's no real sense of, oh, I need to do some other things that I might not like to do as much. And so in that world of, like, think about it, for all of us, if we didn't have other responsibilities, we each would basically engage in just the things we like to do, the reinforcers, right? It's logical, it makes sense. So now what you have to do is kind of a difficult task, because you need to establish with him that there are some things that are, let's say, we can call them whatever. They're, chores, tasks that have to be done during every day, educational activities maybe, or tasks around the house, or social tasks. I mean, whatever it is, to him, it is not as rewarding as playing iPad games and videos and photos, right? So we need to be clear on that. So now you have this activity that you want him to do, whatever it is, whether it's going out, let's say, or talking to other people, putting down the technology. Let's say it's just, think of one activity that you would like to increase, and then you're going to use his preferred activities as reinforcers. And so the way that it works is that you will ask him, and depending on his level of functioning, you might want to have a conversation with him to kind of explain that these are things that you need to get done during the day, and we're going to do them very slowly. Like, we're going to build up to doing this entire list, just like school or something. It builds up. So essentially what you'll do is you'll have him do, let's say, 5 minutes of a non-preferred activity, something you want him to do, and then you'll allow him to have 30 minutes of his preferred activity, which would be the iPad or the game. And so you do that for a while, and you make sure that he's not objecting to it and he's okay with it. It becomes a habit, like maybe a week, right? The next week, you turn that 5 minutes of non-preferred activity to 10 minutes, and you maintain the 30 minutes of the preferred activity. And so you go on this way until it gets to a point where he begins to have an intermittent schedule where there are just as many non-preferred activities as there are preferred activities. Or the other way that you could do it is that you gradually have now increased, let's say, a block of time where it's like, oh, he's supposed to do 1 whole hour of something that he doesn't really like to do, and then he'll get a whole hour of something he does like to do. The key to this, I mean, you'll have to balance it so that it's fair. I always tell parents that, you know, our kids, when they first start doing ABA, they are basically used to doing all the things they want to do, and demands have not been placed in the same at the same level as demands are placed on typically developing kids. So what has to happen is that you'll do a gradual transition for them. In the beginning, you will have very few requests or demands, like things that you want them to do, non-preferred activities, and a lot of reinforcers. And then over time, gradually, in a way that they don't really object, in a way that it becomes a habit or a pattern just a routine, gradually, you'll increase those requests or demands, and you'll decrease the reinforcers to become more like what we experience in regular life, right? If you think about it, when we're kids, we have a lot of reinforcers. All we do all day long is play, right? And then we have to go to school. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go to school, but there's a lot of play as well in school because my friends are there. And then I'll come home and I'll do a little bit of homework, and then I'll get to play again. But as we grow up, it becomes a lot more like, right? Like, organize your room. Now you actually have proper homework to do, and it takes hours, and you might not even have time to play anymore. And as you grow up, you realize that those things that were reinforcers get less and less and less and less, right? If we're lucky, and if we are, you know, in an environment that allows it, we will maintain some self-reinforcing activities. Like I find, Shannon, that men are a lot better at maintaining fun activities than women are. And, you know, so men will generally continue to do sports, maybe watch sports and so on. We as women might watch TV, cook, we have hobbies, right? And all of those things become rewards, and we then do all this hard stuff. We go to work, we take care of others, we do this, that, and the other thing. Then we reward ourselves with a small amount of reinforcer. That's what you need to gradually accomplish for your son, which is essentially changing his routine. Now, there's a lot of ways also you can use visual schedules. There's a lot of things like that that you could do, but the idea is that you basically will now increase his demand or his tasks very gradually and still make sure he has access to rewards. Long answer.
But really important, and thank you so much for it, because I love how you take into consideration that, you know, well, we would all want to do that. I just always appreciate your viewpoint on that. I want to say, because I didn't mention before that I'm the very proud mom of a 17-year-old that was diagnosed at the age of 2.5. And, you know, like all young men in this age range, he loves his video games and his screen time. It's so different in COVID, because, you know, so that was their big reinforcer for screen time, and now we're having to meter that reinforcer so much more because they're having to do all the things they don't like on screen time. But I just really appreciate that this mom is trying to figure it out and trying to find more ways to get him to do something else. And I just want to throw in there that a lot of times, I think all kids on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, but especially our kids, they don't know that they whether they like something until they've tried it. And sometimes they have to try it more than once. And it's very hard for me as a parent, but I learn every day about patience, that when I want to introduce him to something that he's never done before, I get pushback. And I'm trying to learn and adjust myself. Somebody said the other day about how they're learning, instead of pushing, to ride the wave, and that I'm trying to ride the wave when I'm asking him to do something, and know that he's going to give me pushback, and that's not necessarily indicative of where we're going to end up, but that I've pulled him away from something that he really wants to do, and we're going to, like, you know, we're going to go for a walk, or, you know, we're going to do some new activity. and he's going to tell me he doesn't want to do it. And
Mhm.
I don't have to get all hysterical about that because I want to do that. I can just go, I hear you, but we're still going to try it. And if you never want to do it again, we don't ever have to do it again, but we're going to try this thing. And I find that when I stay calm and don't get like, but you need to get off of the screen time and don't go through all those explanations, that a lot of times not every time, but a lot of times he ends up liking the activity. So I just want to throw that out because I know that this parent is going to like try some new things, and your child may be like, I don't want to do this, or
Yeah.
they don't say that, they'll just be crabby, crabby, and that doesn't feel good for us. We're like putting out all this effort to do the thing with them, and then they're crabby on top of it, and we go, why do I even bother? But
Yeah.
instead, if we ride the wave and go, yep, as expected, Mr. Krabby Pants showed up. But I know from the past that sometimes we get through this and he ends up liking the activity. But so sending you hugs because that's hard, but I applaud this parent that it's hard during COVID. We have to try to reduce the screen time whenever possible, even when it's their rewarding thing. So sending them love.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.